Hi, my name is Kayla,
And my name is Jordan.
and we'll be discussing facial symmetry. So, we've discussed in lecture how facial symmetry may be one of the ways individuals choose their mates, as it could possibly indicate good genetic quality. However, we wanted to dive deeper into this concept and find out whether facial symmetry is in fact adaptive with regard to mate choice. So, for a bit of background, mate choice is one of the fundamental mechanisms that has contributed to the evolution of species. And it is a process by which certain traits, behavioral or physical, in an organism of a particular sex influence their mating with another organism of the opposite sex. And this is related to the idea of sexual selection, where one sex of a species is choosy about who they mate with. Therefore, organisms will look for specific traits within the other sex that are considered as indicators of fitness, or their ability to survive and pass on their traits. For humans, throughout evolution, there have been many different traits that have been selected for by the opposite sex. For example, various expressions of testosterone and estrogen, such as jaw width, cheekbones, and lip size, have been thought of as resembling good genes or fitness. But one of these traits in particular is facial symmetry, and the idea stems from the concept of developmental stability, which is the ability of an organism to express bilateral symmetry while having encountered external stressors, including illnesses, viruses, or other health disturbances. So, if an organism is unable to withstand these external difficulties, it can result in slight fluctuations from ideal symmetry, called fluctuating asymmetry. Because of this, symmetry may indicate fitness in that less fluctuations from symmetry may demonstrate a person's capability to survive the stressors they are faced with, because only those with more fit or better genes may be able to endure these challenges. So, in taking a look at the research conducted around this topic, we reviewed multiple articles surrounding people's preferences and whether or not they thought more symmetrical faces were more attractive than asymmetrical faces. And one of these studies in particular was performed by Fink et al. And essentially, what happened was a group of participants were shown two images of the same face. One was a more symmetrical version, and the other was the original photo. And this group then selected which photo they believed was more attractive, healthier, and also attributed some personality traits to them as well. And the researchers found that ratings for images with more facial symmetry were significantly higher for attractiveness, health, and favorable personality traits compared to the asymmetrical photos. So these findings appear to be in line with facial symmetry being adaptive, as it was selected for by these individuals. And then another study by Lefebvre and Saxton actually examined parental preferences for symmetry, and their results were rather similar to the previous experiment. So participants were families of daughters and their mothers and fathers, and each of them were shown two pictures of the same face, again, one symmetrical and the other asymmetrical, of males who could be potential mates for the daughters. And they chose which one they believed to be more attractive. So they found that daughters had higher preferences overall compared to their parents, which would make sense as it would be the daughter's mate. But they also found that parents also exhibited significant preferences for symmetry. This means that this could be considered further evidence for facial symmetry being adaptive, because not only are daughters' preferences affected, but also their parents, who are most likely hoping for their daughter to mate with someone of high quality genes so that they have children and those children are more fit to have children. So, to continue on to these ideas, it has also been suggested by Thornhill and Gangestad that pheromones may play a role in this as well, and that women may be able to detect and will prefer men with more symmetry simply by smelling their scent. So, a group of participants slept in a new shirt for 2 days, and once the shirts were returned, a group of the opposite sex rated the attractiveness of the scent and their photographs. And it was found that naturally ovulating women on their highest fertility day within their menstrual cycle showed higher preferences for the scent of more symmetrical men. So, this means that they may have been looking for those with the highest indicators of genetic fitness, and women may perhaps have mechanisms related to pheromones in order to do this.
Besides attractiveness, it is also possible that behaviors not exactly relating to mate choice may also provide evidence for facial symmetry being adaptive, and cooperation may be one of these. For example, Rodriguez Ruiz et al. Performed a study where a group of participants played a social dilemma game similar to the prisoner's dilemma. So essentially, participants were given an option to work with an anonymous partner, which was the most favorable outcome, or not to work with someone, which was the least favorable outcome. Then the participant determined whether the anonymous partner would want to work with them. This was for the first round, but for the other rounds, the participants were given a photo of someone they were familiar with and answered the same questions as the first round, which was if they wanted to work with them and if the other person would want to work with them. So, the researchers found that there were higher cooperation rates with those that had higher facial asymmetry, and more participants wanted to work with those who had higher facial asymmetry as well. So, this may seem to support facial symmetry being evolutionarily adaptive because those with lower symmetry may have been more cooperative as a way to compensate for potentially lower genetic quality. And finally, it's also possible that facial symmetry could be linked with health as well, furthering its evolutionary adaptiveness. For instance, Shackelford and Larson conducted an experiment where groups of participants were measured for their emotional, physiological, and psychological health, as well as their facial symmetry. Another group of participants also rated their photos. So, with this, the results showed that male participants with higher facial asymmetry had higher rates of depression and emotional changes. Female participants with higher facial asymmetry also had more physical symptoms such as cramping and muscle soreness. And participants rated those with more asymmetrical faces as appearing unhealthy. Therefore, all things considered, it appears that facial symmetry seems to be linked to health quality within individuals. So, facial symmetry seems to be an indicator of lower genetic fitness, which may make it more difficult to find a mate, since other participants also believed that they were unhealthy. Not only may they have less success finding mates, but this could also contribute to their ability to survive and reproduce in general, because if less symmetrical individuals are finding themselves sick more often, and if these illnesses are life threatening, then they may not be able to reproduce, affecting their genetic fitness. So, with all of this, we can conclude that it is possible that facial symmetry may in fact be evolutionarily adaptive with regard to mate choice. Since those with more symmetry were rated as more attractive by potential mates and even parents, naturally ovulating women preferred the scent of more symmetrical men, those with less symmetry were more cooperative, and those with less symmetry appeared to be less healthy overall. Therefore, if facial symmetry does in fact signal high genetic quality, it would be more likely that in the real world outside of these experiments, we would expect those with more symmetry to have an easier time finding mates because they seem to be thought of as more attractive, healthier, etc. And this would allow for their children to have these genes as well, which would again continue the cycle of natural selection, allowing for those with more symmetry to be selected for. But the research cannot stop here as it may be necessary to expand who is being tested. For example, almost all of the studies we reviewed utilized only Caucasian participants. Therefore, it would be important to see if this phenomenon occurs for those of other races, such as the BIPOC population. Also, it would be interesting to examine how socioeconomic status plays a role in this. For instance, having a group of people within lower socioeconomic statuses choose between symmetrical and asymmetrical faces and having those in higher wealth categories do the same. We wonder whether those with lower income levels would demonstrate stronger preference for symmetrical individuals in order to ensure genetic quality compared to those with higher income levels.